Hey guys, how's it going? It's your girl Victoria, Lady VV12. Today we have a very special guest, Hundo, in the building.
What's going on? What's going on? KTC.
How you doing today?
I'm good. I'm feeling really good. It's a sunny day in Southern California, like 15 minutes from the beach. Just yeah, really excited to be having this conversation. And yeah, it's a good time. Album time. Albums out.
Yes, sir. It's been a long time coming. You guys, Hundo's been one of the first supporters of Kick the Concrete. Like, we sat down at a coffee shop and like wrote out all these ideas. And so thank you for like being here. This is super exciting to
Nah, for real. I just love to see how far you come with it and everything. And like you're a friend, so I always love chatting with friends about music and all the cool stuff going on.
For sure, for sure. Well, yeah, it's album time. Tell me about what is But the Flesh is Weak.
Man, so But the Flesh is Weak is like, if I could say it's anything, it's like something that I've been working through like in my personal life. And I've taken this and just these conversations with God and looking in the mirror, and of course, the scriptural reference where it comes from. Let us pray, watch and pray, lest you enter into temptation, for the spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. And it was just me like realizing certain things in my personal life that I was going through, looking in the mirror, and then putting that into art form. Like, what do these emotions, what do these feelings sound like? What do they look like? Like, what's going on? You know what I mean? So we have a short film that's in film festivals right now. That's been really fun, really cool. Also have an album, 8 songs, 8 tracks, kind of like a world to get involved in. And then there's also a conversation. There's music videos, socks, t-shirts, condoms, like it's all in there.
The content is kind of maybe some circles would consider it taboo or like, I don't know, kind of brush this
Yeah,
stuff under the rug. But what was kind of your conviction to tell these honest stories?
yeah, I would say it's definitely like a sexually charged like album, like so to speak. Um, but I also I agree. Like I think it's taboo, and the inspiration was really just like me looking at my life as a former youth leader, like a guy who has I've had premarital sex, but I also preach like don't have it. I have these desires and these urges, and trying to figure out like what's the best way to like communicate not only for myself but for other people. Like how do we deal with this real thing that's impacting so many of us? I remember seeing statistics like 50% of the men that were like in churches were struggling with pornography, but it like would never get brought up. It would never get discussed. Like, and if it did, it's like a hard like, don't do this, that's bad. Or yo, I used to do this, I'm so bad I don't do that no more. But it's also like, how do we get from this point to like where that is that you speak of, this place that when I talk to people around me, not too many people seem like they really reconciled that lust, those desires in there, had an honest conversation about it. So when I started to have that conversation with God, like, where did these feelings come from? Where did these desires come from? What is it about me? Like, thinking back to the first time that I accidentally stumbled upon porn, like as a kid on like a dial-up computer. And then that world that got opened up to me, like kind of like eating the fruit, so to speak, like realizing your nakedness. And it's like, oh man, like I'm stuck in this world, and it's still impacting me to this day of just what I've been through with this. So yeah, realizing that a lot of people don't talk about it, realizing that there needs to be this space created for it. And if I have to examine myself and get down to the nitty gritty and then present that in art form to people, so be it.
Yeah, yeah, it's so powerful, like just that authenticity and that, yeah, that the process of it is lost sometimes. Like you don't look at porn, you know what I mean? Like, but how do we get to that? Like, And I
Yeah.
know in the short film too, you kind of bring up like toxic masculinity and like how maybe older generations have ingrained different thought patterns and behaviors into future generations. But what was important to you to address that too?
Oh, definitely. And you know, with the film, like I was so great to have the writer of the film being Miss Ava Monet. Um just to have the a feminine pen behind that aspect of the project as well. But that was something that we wanted to be real about, was like her being able to draw from, having a big brother, having relationships with men, and being able to see like certain dynamics. And when you do get that little bit of honesty, what we talk about. But for me, like even talking to her like before, as we were in the writing process, the early stages, before I just let her like do her thing, it was just like, yeah, I definitely wanted to make sure that we talk about that, talk about the upbringing, about like how it's been like that since the playground, even just boys and like even older men, OGs in the community or so-called OGs, like saying that we should like treat women like Baskin Robbins, try all the flavors. And it's like, bro, like I'm 8, bro. Like, you know what I mean? Like I'm like 8,
Yeah.
9 years old having some older dude like tell me this. And then like we just need better conversations around it. So I just wanted to expose it. And now, in our generation, we're able to put a label on that type of stuff like toxic masculinity. But for the average man, I just hope that like in watching the film, he can hear himself in there. Not necessarily a bunch of like clinical or like Twitter terms, but just like, yo, my pops told me that too. Like my cousins, were talking to me about that too, and they can relate. And then be able to, self-diagnose at times, but also go out and get the assistance that's needed. Like, yeah, there is a term for that. It's toxic masculinity. Like, and it needs to be addressed. But
Yeah. What's that process been like for you of like acknowledging those factors, but then also taking accountability of like, I have my own choices as well?
yeah, it's been a years long process, and it's honestly something that, if I'm being honest, I think it's going to be a continual thing for me, just to make sure that I'm constantly, as the Apostle Paul would say, beating my flesh into submission. Um, Realizing that I've got these carnal desires, and like when I do things to feed them, it increases it. Sometimes the world does enough of it, but other times like we choose these things, like the images that I look at, the videos I watch, what I do on the internet late at night. You know what I mean? What I do in my relationships with women. So just realizing that I have these weaknesses and being able to like kind of coach against that, and just try to date in a more holistic way. Um, Try to make sure that I'm making sure that I'm good. Like I gotta take these things to God first and foremost. Like why am I struggling with this discontentment? Why do I feel like I constantly need to have more, or I need to connect in this type of way? Um, Going to him first and foremost, and not leaving that be an area that I just sweep under the rug or like hide in darkness from others, from women, from my family, from myself, and even from God. Like God wants to talk about sex. God wants to talk about these feelings, those little tingly, what I mean, sensations and desires and stuff. It's not gross, or it's not, it doesn't have to be a shameful type of thing. So going to God and talking about my sexual desires, and seeking help from that, and then also holding myself accountable in my relationships with my friends. It's been a process, and it's always going to be an ongoing thing for me. But the best thing that I can say about it is that, because this is something that I used to keep in the darkness, like even when I was like a youth teacher, a youth pastor, so to speak, and I was dealing with just having these things in secret, and like not being able to bring it to the light. But like the healing does come from even like the confession. So confessing and being like, yeah, like I be on them little nasty websites. Yeah, I am like a reformed porn addict. You know what I mean? Like I can say that I'm struggling with these things. I'm working through these things. God is working on them in me, and I'm not ashamed of it. I'm not going to let the enemy or this perception of society, when we know that everybody's dealing with it anyway. But if I have to be like the only one or just the first one to get out there and like and say it and plaster that on the shirt, like I'll do it. Like I'm cool with it, being that guy that can admit where this stuff led him, you know?
Yeah, no, it's so powerful. Like, and how are you feeling about taking that leadership role? Like, is it intimidating? Do you feel strong and
Oh, it's
ready, or both?
intimidating.
Or yeah.
It's
Uh-huh.
intimidating because it's like I didn't do this to become like the sex guy, you know what I mean? Like the like the guru. There's
Uh-huh.
so many like people that are like completely healed up, and I want to be that bridge. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
If I can use my testimony, my story to help get people to God and help connect us with the resources, the therapists, the pastors, the mentors, the men that have been healed from lives of like porn addiction and promiscuity and are now living like happy, whole, like single lives or married lives. Like, you know, I got some OGs that have popped up now and just yeah, being able to go to them and like I want to be like the guy, like I'm the guy with the spinning sign pointing people like in the direction to go. You know, I'm just on the corners.
Yeah.
I'm on the streets, you know what I'm saying? I'm working, you know what I mean? But I'm still out here. So I'm like, all right, like I know the way to go. I just want to direct as many people as possible to get to where we can all get the help that we need. So that I'm signing up for it. I'm totally fine with.
Yeah, that's very brave of you. And like, yeah, that's good. What was kind of the creative process like of the 8 songs, and even just I feel like there's 7 songs of like you're battling, and then the second
Yeah,
to last song like kind of has that transition, and then the last song is like that breath almost, like kind of what's that plot? How did that plot unfold for you?
it was funny because like I got the word flesh at first, and I was like, okay, this is like a scriptural thing, like a biblical thing. For the longest, it was just called flesh, but I actually wrote on a whiteboard like 1 through 12 or something. Like, like this project is probably going to be like this many songs. Let me think about it. Like, I would like to examine it, like first examine myself, and then see how I got here. So I was always looking for like songs and music that when I was creating them with Just Beats, my producer who produced all 8 songs. Just like what I need songs that sound like this depravity, or I need this like so that's how we come up with like a centipede. Like what does that lust like sound like? What does it feel like? To me, that's like a sad song. But like the guitars, the sound effects in it, like the world, like the different layers of the voices and things like that, that all has like um symbolism and meaning behind it. But once I started to get through it, I was like, yo, a lot of this album sounds like still in the thick of it. You know what I mean? Like I'm still like dealing with this. I didn't want, there was a time where I thought maybe I could make it like one half this and one half that, but a lot of it is just like after a long time you get that revelation. So that's why it also sounds like that. Or there's years of these habits and these ways of being. So if that becomes the majority of the project, so be it. But it was definitely intentional that I wanted to mention that wrestle, that struggle, and why that struggle so hard. I don't think I could just skip over it so quickly with just like 1 or 2 songs to explain how you get to like a track 7, like Undercover, where it's like it builds up to this moment, like even halfway through that song of like finally like starting to realize it and starting to click a little bit. And then you get to track 8, Better, where it's like even like the first line, just like, okay, like this is where this stuff can lead you and like and take you. Like even though you're getting like the revelation, there's effects to this. And if you're not careful, you know what I mean, you're gonna really hurt yourself out here. But yeah, started I had about 12, cut it to 8, and was just really happy with the story that was told within these 8. So yeah, hopefully it's like a world, like an experience, like a journey, or at the very least, like a movie with a character that you can kind of see them walking through and living through this.
I could see it, understand it. So
Yeah.
yeah, definitely. I mean, I remember even when you were telling me about the concept of this project and like the story of Better, like you were just sitting there and like, why, what am I doing here? Like, can you kind of maybe
Yeah.
unpack that of what that
No,
moment was like?
it was crazy. Like for me to
Mhm.
be like a former like youth pastor that's now sitting in like a Planned Parenthood clinic needing to get like resources from them for like, and you know what I mean, some churches you be at, that's like a crip being at a Bloods meeting or something. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Like, I don't, forgive the crude metaphor, but it was like, yo, how am I here right now? There's a lot of like good work that they do. I receive at that place, but it's almost like, yo, if you're kind of staying outside of this realm of things, you usually shouldn't have to end up here. You know what I mean? Like people on the straight and narrow usually don't find themselves in these parts. At least that's what I thought. So being in there, and for what I was in there for, like literally finding out that I got burned, like it was a straight up decision off of me just being promiscuous, me just trying to fulfill my own desires. In the record, I say, as I sit in this clinic, I'm thinking about my life. I know it's hard to admit it, but I've been living tripe. Just got burned by this chick that I had to give the pipe. Ironically, it hurts when I piss. Pumping isn't right. Like, I when I went through that, because there was a moment where I was starting to write the album. Like I had a lot of these songs written, but God was so telling me like there's more for you to learn. Like I don't want you to start talking about this unless you come at it from a different place. So it's gonna take you 6 months to write this verse. Or I'm not gonna give you the words for this last song until a year later, or however long it's gotta be for you to learn this. So it was when I was sitting in there, it was like that feeling of shame, guilt, which is me putting that on myself, but thinking like, yo, like I really gotta, I gotta do better. Like I could do better, like I know better, so I should do better. Luckily, with one pill, my situation got cleared up. Didn't get anything that stuck with me to this day, except for the lesson that, like, yo, you could really get hurt out here. You could really hurt others out here. Like, this is not a game. Like, even down on the physical level. So, putting that into song format, and then also like mention how God takes away that shame. How God is also that voice that comes to you and says, like your struggles don't define your worth. Like you can get up and try again. Like it's another fresh start today. Like his mercies are new every morning. So I wanted to paint the full picture of that. But yeah, it was a wild situation to be in. Extremely wild.
That's amazing how like you found the other side of that. And yeah, I mean, we all have to face those moments, and like, but then
Hopefully not all
experience
of us.
different. But I mean, everybody has their own different type of,
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe not everybody, but
They got their own
everybody
situation.
has their own thing to deal with. Is there gonna be like a part two or something, or just because like the conclusion is almost like a new chapter, you know what I mean? So like, what is after this?
I definitely realized that as well. That I do see and feel that opens up a door. And I knew that after I completed it, I was like, oh wow, like the continuation from this is going to be like very interesting. I've got yeah, I got something that I'm working on already, that I'm already thinking about as far as like this next chapter. It's because it's at a point now where it's just me. You know what I mean? Like the next chapter in my life, like the doors that this is open in my relationship with God, and my relationships with my friends, and my romantic relationships. Like those are all different avenues that have been opened up and I'm exploring now. So I have an idea. Like I'm taking my time with it. I'm letting it marinate. Some of the songs are coming out now and the writings. But yeah, what's coming next is just as explorative. Similar subject matter, but I got something that's pretty good.
I can
That
see you're like, I
I'm
can't give it
excited
all
about it.
away.
I'm excited about it. I gotta see how people, digest this one first. And yeah, it'll be coming soon. It'll be coming soon.
For sure. That's exciting. Yeah, I mean, is there anything else that like you wanted to share about the process of this or just the theme overall or
I guess the biggest thing with like the process was like the time, I guess just like the time that it took from like writing, and music. Like I went in the booth, created, worked on all of the music and the lyrics with Justin Just Beats Gardner, out of Woodland Hills. And working on that and keeping that for a while, and then taking my time to like go over the recording sessions with like Joel Murphy, getting him on guitar, getting Vince Cosita on bass, Eric de Guzman on keys, Jordan DeTige on sax, just getting that live instrumentation feeling there. Like a lot of those bass lines and stuff, it's like that's real bass on the album. And going from there, getting it mixed during the pandemic, mixed and mastered in New York from John Kalinkagen, which was like incredible, doing all these virtual sessions where I could hear it on my speakers and stuff. Crazy use of technology. Getting the short film done with Early Bird Productions, having Daniel Streety direct it, Ava Monet write it, Rashana Payne come on and co-produce with me. Yeah, shooting an entire film shooting an entire short film during the pandemic was just a crazy experience. But all of that, literally, this all taking place over years, like the years that it took to get that done. But that's what I want people to know. I believe they'll feel it. They'll feel that energy on it when they see and hear the work. Even the cover art, getting that from Istanbul, from Sanem Domasi, like, yeah, it's just, I don't know. It's just like a great collaborative effort. It's just amazing to see what God's been doing in my life and like the lives of all the people that have touched this project, like the assistance, the resources, the favors that's needed to get something like this done. Like it would be nothing without those people. And then some Marini McGuire helping me with all the graphic design, like the poem that's in like the boxes that I sent out, like so many different hands have touched and blessed this project. So just wanted to give them their shout outs. Yeah, I just wanted to make something that could be experienced more than just streamed or just consumed. In a way, I would tell everybody on set and everybody that touched every part of the project, like we're doing this for souls, not streams. I think that's why I have a piece about that. Like I'd be tripping out and like overly planning just like anybody else, but I really have a piece about it that whoever experiences it will be able to have a place get opened up, possibly for more conversation, for more realness, and and get closer to God through this. So that's my hopes for this project, whoever experiences But the Flesh is Weak.
yeah, amen. It's not just about music or like cool cover art. I mean, that's important, but yeah.
I feel like I got both of those,
You do.
but yeah,
But
it's
it's
more than
all
that.
higher. Yeah, so good. Well, thank you again for your time. Tell the people where to find you at.
Yes, you can find me at Hitman Hundo on Instagram, but all of the stuff for the project is at btfiw.com, butthefleshesweak.com.
There you go. You can get all the music, the visual, the shop. So
Yes,
we're excited.
copy some merch.
Support your artists. So
Yeah.
awesome. Well, you guys know we're at Kick the Concrete. It's your girl Victoria. We'll talk to you later.
Peace.